And so if you're watching this today, I promise you there's nothing special about any 5 of us. Nothing. There's nothing. We just get up a lot when we don't feel like getting up. And we just have some discipline to maybe not eat some of the food we feel like eating. And we have some of the self-respect to not let people talk to us a certain way, or if they do, to cut them out of our lives. And so, anybody is capable of that, and anybody can make that one decision right now to say, this is the direction my life's going. I'm taking that lifeline that maybe you guys are throwing them, that they feel a tug in their heart from the Lord, or whatever that might be.
Ty Todt, welcome to the Present Fathers Podcast. Brother, we are absolutely pumped to have you on. How are you?
Bro, fired up to be here, man. I've never seen so many handsome men in the same room. Just fired up. A lot of champions in here. Always an honor. I connect with you guys so often, pretty much daily, all 4 of you on X. So it's a real opportunity and blessing to get to be here, man. Virtually, and like bro hugs.
We're pumped, bro. We're absolutely fired up. So I just want to get right into it. Like you mentioned, you're on X, huge presence on X. Very influential. You're a husband, father, real advocate for men to be their better selves. I've heard you referred to by multiple people as the most positive man on X. I love that. It's awesome to see what you're doing there and inspiring people. However, that wasn't always the case, right? You used to really struggle, had a lot of issues with fitness, got divorced. So walk us through who Ty used to be and how you've transformed into this influential, great example for men to follow today.
Yeah, man. So a lot of prayers of every day I wake up and say the same prayer. Just ask the Holy Spirit for a little less of Ty and a little more of Jesus. That's the prayer. Don't always succeed, but we're just trying to inch closer to that every day. I grew up in the church, but somewhere around the lines of 17, 18, I figured I knew more than the creator of the universe, and so I kind of turned my back on that. In college, I sort of hit it big, man. At 19, I made probably 60, 70, 80,000, somewhere in there playing poker, just by depositing $60 in an online poker site. So dropped out of school. My parents were obviously thrilled, driving home telling them, hey, I'm going to be a professional poker player at 19 and a half.
The real American
dream. Living the dream, right? All the beer money in the world.
Betting on Tyler.
But I kind of lived a pretty fast life, to be honest, for the next 7-8 years, man. Once I hit 21, I came out to Vegas and lived out here for a while. Just not doing the right things. My parents would continue to pray for me, and when I got an opportunity to talk to them, they'd ask me, if I was going to church and things like that. And I was just so arrogant at that time. I was made 7 figures playing poker during that time, but the ego was just out of control. I'm this pretty young, but back then when you're 23, 24, you can eat McDonald's every day, not sleep, you can still have a 6-pack, right? It's pretty easy. So, it was doing fine in that regard and had a lot of money. And I used to say things like, religion and faith are for people that don't have what I had. I just sort of had this thing in my head, man. And I met a gal out in Vegas against my parents and my 5 best friends in the world. Every one of them pulled me aside when I proposed to her and said, bro, we love you. Like, you're going through a phase. This ain't it. This isn't good, Turned my back, didn't listen to any of them. We got married. Long story short, 3 years in, internet poker dries up. It's called Black Friday. And I go from making $250,000 a year in my underwear, playing 3-4 hours a day of online poker, to zero. Just overnight. Like, I log on, the funds are frozen. So lifestyle changes a lot. About 7-8 months later, I find out that same wife has been cheating on me, as our lifestyle kind of had to change a little bit. And so got crushed in the divorce. Then I sort of just didn't know who I was at that point. My whole identity was in money and wealth and poker. I still had probably $400,000-500,000 at that point to my name at 28 when this happened. Moved to Chicago. Just went off the deep end for 18 months, to be honest. Just, drinking 5, 6, to be honest, 7 nights a week, popping Adderall like they're Skittles, saying I was a professional poker player, but never even really working, just going to nightclubs, chasing women, and just feeling awful about myself, to be honest. I weighed 149 pounds back then. I never lifted weights or did anything. And it was one guy I'll never forget. His name was Colby Boyle. He was in the cover of, not the cover, but he was in Men's Health, and just this absolute beast. He trained Chicago Bears player. And we had mutual friends, and we were at a bar one night, and he just struck up a conversation. And I'm a friendly guy, and I asked him, I said, bro, how do you get a physique like you? It's like, people ask you guys, how do you get good at anything? I just wanted to give me the one cheat code, right? It's probably you can't drink 7 days a week and you need to eat well and lift, but I wanted the cheat code, right? So give me the cheat code. And he says, well, I'll tell you what, man, I could tell you, or you could just meet me at the gym at 5 a.m. Here's where we lift, show up. And I'm like, bro, I'm 10 drinks in and it's like, midnight. But I said, okay, man, this guy had like an infectious energy. So I showed up there the next day. I lifted with him and his boys, and I showed up every day for the next like year and a half. And it didn't solve all my problems, but it made me stop drinking a lot. It made me just get conscientious about health. It was the gateway drug to get me on this other side. So I'm forever grateful, man. And that's why even when people are super negative or in a low space, I always try and be that Colby for other people, man.
Yeah, I have noticed real quick. I know Justin's got a great question for you, but I have noticed real quick, like, I've been able to have a lot of empathy for people because I just see when they say something like that, like, man, that's just a really hurt dude, and I don't know what happened in his life, but I just feel bad that he thinks that's his only solution is to like talk crap on the internet, So that's that. I love that awareness, and I love that about how you carry yourself in that way, because I think it does open the door for a lot of people to be like, oh, maybe I am wrong, or maybe I do need to change my perspective. Maybe, we'll see, but at least you give them the chance, right? So, Justin, go ahead, man. I think your question here.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's wild, Ty, because you and I have very, very similar stories. We haven't got to have this conversation yet, but my twin there essentially told me, don't marry this girl. I did not listen. I was headstrong, arrogant, same route. These guys have known me practically my whole life, and it's funny because I kind of went through the same, issues you did. And I guess my biggest question would be, what is it that really like kind of stuck out to you that made you change your ways? Besides obviously Colby, is there, a God thing, or was it the gym thing, or both, or, what really kind of turned the page for you to kind of move through? Because for me, I found my faith journey immediately after my divorce. And I went straight into the gym because I knew that was what my father had done in the hard times in his life. So did you have that like aha moment for the same thing for you?
I did, man. And yeah, bro, it's me and you were thinking with the wrong head. It sounds like in our youth, man. I was thinking we could solve it all. But yeah, so it was once I started the gym. To be honest, I was real consistent with that, and then I started going to church a little bit. That group of guys didn't really go to church much. They were just gym dudes, great dudes, but gym dudes. So I was still kind of doing the lifting pretty hard, but going out type thing for a while. And then I just had this sort of self-discovery, maybe a year later at that, we'll call it about 29, somewhere in there. I was sitting on the top of I had a condo in Lincoln Park, Chicago, and I remember just sitting up there by myself one night at like 1, 2 a.m. and just literally thinking, I kind of hope I don't wake up tomorrow. Like, man, I'm just like, I'm too, my best, like I was this poker big guy that had a lot of stuff, and now I don't. And I couldn't see any future better ahead. And I'll never forget this. I shot this old pastor, his name's Eddie Lowen, an email at like, it had to be after midnight, 1 a.m., something like that in Chicago. And to be honest, I'm drinking. And I just remember I looked him up through a church directory. I remember meeting this guy back in grade school and high school, and every interaction I had with him, I just remember him being a solid dude. And I still to this day don't know why I reached out to him. But I just said, hey, man, I have everything everybody says I should have. I have women, I have some money, I've had some fame in the poker world. I've had these things, a great car, all the things the world says I should have. I'm miserable. You always seem like a guy who maybe didn't have a lot monetarily, but my goodness, you were so joyful. Would you just have a conversation with me? I just want to know, And this guy runs a church of 6,000, 8,000 people back then, responds in like 2 minutes. I joke with him now. I'm like, I don't think he sleeps ever. I know he's, but he said, hey, Ty, let's meet for a cup of coffee. I'll meet you anytime. And he did. And we had 10 or 12 cups of coffee where he let me express my doubts. I had a lot of questions about faith and this or that. And he didn't say, hey, my way's right, your way's wrong. He said, seek the answers. And he challenged me with one prayer. He said, say this prayer over and over again for 30 days. God, if you're real, show yourself to me. And I literally told him, yeah, I'll do it for you because I respect you, but I don't expect nothing to happen. Fast forward 20-ish days into that, I come to Vegas by myself. I'm playing some higher stakes poker. I get absolutely murdered one night. I lose like 10 grand. And so I'm depressed and I'm down. And now I go for a jog. And man, I have this iPod shuffle back then, and I'm still saying this prayer just for Eddie Lowen. So I'm out for a jog on this back alley. I can still remember where it's at. And I hit shuffle, 10,000 songs on this iPod, never put a Christian song on there. Didn't listen to any Christian music at this time. And this song pops on, Holy is the Lord God Almighty. And I didn't know how it got there. I thought my mom must have put that on. I skipped it. The next one was like a Biggie song or a Tupac or whatever I'm listening to then. And I'm at this point, I'm heated and I'm screaming up at God, how could you let my life get here? I'm just angry. And I hit shuffle, and the next song is Holy is the Lord God Almighty again, out of 10,000 songs. And I swear to you, I dropped down to my knees and I just cried. And I just said, God, I don't know really what it is. I think I had my parents' faith just going to grade school back then. I don't know what it is to follow you, but I want to learn. I'm tired of captaining my own ship and essentially just running it right into a wall over and over again. And so I gave my life to Jesus that day. It was kind of a 3-step forward, 2 back. Sought out some mentors. Eddie was huge. Called my parents, asked them for some guidance, some books. Can I listen to some sermons, things like that. But that was definitely the genesis and the start for me. And Eddie always told me this, no matter how far you've gone in that wrong direction, whether that be alcohol, drugs, women, whatever it is, you don't have to solve it all today. Just take 1 step back. And so that's what he challenged me to do. And that's what I've been trying to do ever since.
It was literally your 40 days and 40 nights in the desert. That's incredible, Ty. What a story. So cool.
Yeah,
so
it was wild, man.
So we have some modern challenges, even in the past 10 years, that maybe you didn't have. We see so many young men taking the black pill, right? So quick level set. The blue pill is you're just kind of out of it. You don't know. You're watching CNBC and you just think everything's fine and you love Kamala Harris. The red pill is like, okay, I know a little bit more and I have some ideas and, I've learned a few things. And the black pill is just women are terrible. Marriage is a scam, all that kind of stuff. What do you say to young men who have taken that black pill and who just think that, the world is a scam and that you just have to take what you can get as a man? Is there any hope for redemption for them?
Yeah, 100%, because I was that guy too. Even 2 years into my second marriage, to be honest, I reverted back to the same patterns. I'm ashamed to say this, but man, I was turning my life around. I hit the gym. I'm in great shape. I'm mentally healthy, spiritually healthy. We get married. And on the honeymoon, we get pregnant after doctors told us we couldn't have kids. So now I'm this dropout of college. We got a newborn baby. I go take the first job I've ever taken at a bank, which I didn't love. I'm doing school at night. Everything is stressful. And dude, I didn't lift a weight for 18 months. I didn't pick up my Bible for 18 months. I reverted back to all these things, to pornography, to alcohol at night, to telling my wife I'm going to go meet a buddy for one drink, and then I Uber in at 2 a.m. and then I'm mad that she's nagging me the next day, like that kind of guy. It's all, marriage is a scam kind of guy, right? And then it was just another kind of big moment in my life. One night I just realized you get out everything what you put in. And I'm grateful to this day that I married an amazing woman that gave me about 100 chances the first couple years of marriage. But she walked into a room one day and just said, Ty, I love you, but you're not happy. And you're never stuck. And I'll do anything with you to create any kind of life that you want for us. But whatever you're doing, moping around all day, and it's not working. And she walked out of the room, and it was like another night, man. I'm going to sound like such a sissy when I tell these stories. I cried again, man. Just burst into tears. I was 34 and a half. And I really say that's the first night I lived. So that night is the night I got out a notebook. And I'm saying probably the first time I journaled. And I wrote, I don't give a crap how tired I am. I'm getting up at 5 a.m. every day. And I'm going to start eating healthy food. And I'm going to start prioritizing my wife. And I'm going to cut out some friends that aren't really the best for me. And I'm going to change my life. That's kind of led me to giving up TV. I haven't watched TV in over 5 years. I just kind of went all in on my faith at that point and really said I need to become this leader. So to answer your question, Dustin, what I would say to any guy that says marriage is a scam or this is a scam, it's not an indictment on his wife like he thinks it is. If he's in a bad marriage, it's an indictment on him. He's not leading. He's not doing this because I'm yet to meet an on-fire guy as I look at 4 of them here in this room, and I know we all have circles of hundreds of them. I'm yet to meet an on-fire guy that's like, oh man, like I'm ripped and I'm leading and I'm taking my wife on dates and bro, she won't sleep with me. It's more like, honey, it's like, come on, man, it's 11 and I'm getting up at 5, like tomorrow. Like any guy who is leading in this way experiences the kind of wife that he deserves. And so you're going to get that, man. And it might take some wives longer to come along. I've coached guys that have been 6 months at that because she had walls up and she didn't believe he was really going to change. So I do think it's an indictment on them, man. And I think there's a lot of terrible voices. I just kind of got into it kind of publicly. I still don't think he'll box me, but this Nick Fuentes guy challenged him to a boxing match or whatever. But I just think there's a lot of very low energy, low testosterone kind of these guys who, look, let's just call it what it is, man. This guy can't get a woman. So he says, like
It's projection.
Yeah, it's just, and sadly, a lot of these guys believe this, right? And it's easier to play video games and live in this reality where you're the king. It's easier to watch porn every night and, I'm the man, I project myself into that. It's harder to get up at 5 a.m. and lift. It's harder to have hard conversations with your wife if your sex life isn't where you want it to be. It's harder to sit her down and lead in that way. It's harder to prioritize. I haven't golfed in 6 years and I love golf, but I don't golf because, man, it takes away time from dating my wife and doing the other things I want to do. So I had a real wise mentor say, you can't win at everything. Pick about 4 or 5 things you want to be world class at, you want to be great at. Okay, man, that's faith, that's fitness, that's finances, that's being a father. Those are the things that I'm going to be great at. There's nothing else. If you brought me on here to talk about Kamala Harris or Trump, or I don't know, man, I just have to say, I don't really know. I don't follow it. What are the celebrities doing nowadays? I can't name the celebrities. I don't know the TV shows, right? But I know my wife inside and out. We go on 3-4 dates a week at this point. We get away together all the time. My kids and I, man, we spend hours a day together, right? I got a great circle of friends. 16, 17 streams of income coming in every month from the last 6-7 years that I've been real intentional working on, right? So these are the things I'm going to win at. And I just think if guys are saying to you, well, if this is all a scam, bro, audit your time. See where your energy is and effort is going. A lot of it's video game. I used to play the stupid games on my phone at night that like Tank Wars or some crap that just doesn't matter, right? Like win at real life.
Yeah. To your point of like, don't spread yourself too thin and like really focus in. I mean, Sun Tzu said, if you defend everywhere, you defend nowhere. That's absolutely true. Like, and this is where brotherhood comes into play because you can't be the best at everything. So you need your brothers around you to kind of fill in those weak points for you. It's just so powerful. But I love that your mentor said that to you because very powerful advice there. We interrupt this episode to talk about Synthesis Tutor, the world's first superhuman math tutor. It is warm, patient, and understanding and adapts to your child so you never have to worry about them falling behind when it comes to math. In episode 84, we spoke to Chrisman Frank, the CEO of Synthesis, and immediately afterwards, I purchased Synthesis Tutor for my daughter, and it has been an absolute game changer for us. Math used to be a very painful experience. It was frustrating, and there was lots of tears for my daughter when it came to learning math. It's something she's not naturally good at, and we struggled a lot. Now she happily uses Synthesis Tutor every single week, and there's no more frustrating nights. The way it works is that it leverages AI to adapt the experience to your child to not simply master memorization of math facts, but it actually teaches the principles and concepts so that your child can independently solve problems without needing tons of outside help. Because it tailors the experience to your child, it is always adapting and learning where the child is in terms of their development, and it keeps them in the proximal zone of learning so that your child is being challenged but not getting frustrated or defeated by the experience. I am very pleased with our experience on Synthesis Tutor. My daughter's grades have improved in math. It's something that I can now outsource. I don't have to take the time myself to sit there and try and memorize facts with her. She gets excited to do it, and it's fun and engaging for her to learn instead of this frustrating experience, and it doesn't feel like a chore any longer. So we at the Present Fathers Podcast highly endorse Synthesis Tutor. There is also a Teams function for those with multiple kids or maybe multiple families want to pool their children together. You can check that out on the website. You can get 10% off with your purchase by going to synthesis.com/PFP. That's synthesis.com/PFP. Go there, check it out, and start supercharging your child's learning experience with the power of AI. Back to the episode. 100%. Brandon, I think you had something, right?
Yeah, well, I want to say first that marriage is one of the biggest blessings a man can have. As somebody who has still been with my high school sweetheart, and we've been together 23 years, it has taken an immense amount of work, but it has been one of the most precious blessings in my life. And being on that side of the fence, I can tell anybody that's never experienced that it will be one of the best blessings of your life, hands down. Does it take a lot of work? Yes, but everything in life that is worth having requires hard work and sacrifice. You have to surrender some part of yourself. Right. And so with that, I do kind of want to, there was one thing, you've spoken about a kind of a you versus you mentality, and you've also transitioned from a life of indulgence and to one of discipline and service. Right. So how do you convey this transformation to other men and also, to your family without imposing your past struggles on them?
Yeah, I appreciate that, Brandon. And first off, man, 23 years going strong, legend right there. High school sweetheart. That's pretty epic, man, and amazing. And I think you're a testament right there to you get out what you put in. And I agree with you on marriage, everything you said there, man. So, yeah. So, okay. Question again. Sorry, I wanted to say that, and then give me the question. One more
Sure. So
maybe edit
you
that
have
part out, guys.
So you've spoken
We're
about a
actually
you versus.
flipping that. That's the first reel we're putting out. Just.
So you've spoken about a you versus you philosophy, and you've transitioned from a life of indulgence to one of discipline and service. How do you convey this transformation to other men, but also to your family without imposing past struggles on them?
Man, number one is you lead yourself. That part about your family. I have invited my family on walks or breath work or devotions or you name it, probably hundreds of times, and we're busy or this or that, right? And okay, well, I'm gonna go do it, And then I think when they see the fruit of it, right, everything's kind of hitting the fan, and Ty, my wife's anxious and going a little crazy. Well, why are you not, right? Well, I've been doing this thing, breath work and taking walks every day. Join me, right? So I think you have to have some of the fruit to have some ground to stand on, and then I think the other part, man, is how can I convey that to other men? I'm so grateful for the scars, and it's one of my favorite songs, man, a Christian song about that, because I think, Genesis 59 says that the Lord can take even our struggles and turn them into blessings if we turn them over to him. And so that's what I've done, man. I don't try and stand on any moral high ground. When guys join my men's group, to be honest, the first thing they say is a lot of times, well, I'm divorced, or I'm struggling with alcohol, or I'm struggling with porn, or man, I'm struggling with drugs. And I'm like, oh yeah, man, me too, bro. These are all things that I've been into, right? And so I think that actually allows me to meet people where they're at a lot. And so I don't wish this, that my kids struggle with a lot of these things someday so they can have a ground to stand. I don't think anybody would wish that. But my parents were just out here for a couple weeks, man, and my dad gave me a big hug and tears in his eyes, and he said, I'm so proud of you for using some of your past stuff to help other guys. I just led 6 guys on a little men's retreat out here this last weekend, and my folks got to meet all those guys and spend time with them a little bit. And, guys are giving my dad hugs and stuff like that. And that was just really powerful to me to see that kind of come full circle, because my parents prayed for me for a decade. I should have died many times on many of those stupid nights, right? I put myself in very dumb situations, in drug houses, guns pointed at me, just really stupid stuff a lot. And I really believe to this day it was my folks' constant prayer. I call her Mama too, Deb Knowles, who's, a prayer warrior who would round up people and just pray for me and pray for all of us. And I think without them, man, I wouldn't be here today. And so, I don't know, man, I think it allows me to meet guys where they are, to say, I've shared in those struggles. Just meet me here, man, and let's go. Today can be your day one, just as the first day Colby invited me to the gym was day one. When Eddie invited me to say that prayer, that was a sort of day one. When I bawled and sobbed at age 34 and recommitted all in, that was a day one. Anytime can be your day one. And so I think that's a powerful message that we can share. We're no better than anybody. We just want to help others, man.
Yeah, I always say for people that not every person in your life is supposed to be in the entire book, but just a chapter. Some people are there to help you. Some people are there to grow you, and some people are there to hurt you. And every one of those create lessons that God intends to use to create the person you need to be to fulfill your purpose in life. And so I commend you for learning and being a victor, not a victim.
Amen, brother. Yeah, seasons of life for sure, man.
Yeah, and so I kind of wanted to jump back into what you said. So, like you said, you and I have very, very similar stories. And I'm actually going to be very open and honest. I've never talked about this on the podcast before, but I was very much into the booze, the women. I was about high speed, I did stupid stuff like running from cops, 189 miles an hour in black cars with the lights off, just getting it. I struggled for a very long time with pornography addiction and some other things. I talked to George about this privately, and it just took me having a tribe of guys. But to say that, I've been that black pill guy. I liked the Tates at one point, and George was like, bro, no. Dustin, same thing. Brandon, same thing. And so that's why, one, tribes are so important.
There's been a few
they call you out.
changes of words.
Yeah, true. Yeah.
Sorry.
But that being said, one of the questions I wanted to ask you is, I know it's something that these guys are probably feeling. Some of these guys are ego-driven. I was not that guy, but they are not humble. They have an ego the size of Godzilla. Did you feel that it's not even a emptiness, it's like a void, because voids suck all the happiness out of your life? I felt a void for the longest time, especially married to my ex-wife. Did you feel that same void?
Absolutely. Yeah, 100%, man. I describe it to this day. I'm real big into journaling, and it was a few years ago I actually journaled exactly on this topic, and I remember what I wrote. We all have just a hole in us that we try and fill with parties or booze or women or, it's like, bro, you mentioned the Tates. It's like, do you not stop and think, if I'm not really happy and full of peace after 30 Bugattis, maybe 31's not going to make the difference, but we try and fill it with stuff often. And some people never slow down to pause and think like, well, yeah, man, I got that dopamine hit from the new car, or, I don't know, you're chasing things, man, just to try and make you happy, chasing a number in your bank account, chasing that next sort of thing that'll temporarily fill that hole. But I am convinced now of 41 years of life, man, that there's one thing on earth that can fill that hole. Just one. And I think we all know what that is. As you guys nod it. That's Jesus, man. I've tried most of the other stuff, and I've seen other people try. And bro, that's one of the gifts about being a coach and where I've gotten to go the last few years. I've literally hopped on call. I coached a guy for 4 or 5 months. I won't use his name, but he's a legit billionaire. And this guy used to tell me on calls, I'm just so miserable. I'm the most stressed out guy I have no gratitude. And I'd say, well, do you need to work anymore? And he'd say, if I never worked anymore, my kids, they're all set for life. And so we'd start to unlearn and start to talk about these things. And I'll never forget, he said, why you talk about your circle being so important. He said, my yacht's only 120 feet. Most of my friends' yachts are 220. I feel poor. And he's like, I'm only worth 1.2. A lot of my friends are worth 10 billion, 15 billion. And it's like, dude, you have to realize when you have conversations like that with people that it will never be enough. And I think this story is as old as time. If we go back to Adam and Eve, had dominion over everything, literally everything but one thing. And what did they do? Well, that'll make us happy. That'll make us, And it just, man, it's the story as old as time. And so if anybody's watching this back, I mean, this is the thing that's really hitting. You cannot achieve your way to happiness. It's awesome to work hard and set goals and work out. And I'm setting my goals for 2025. I'm going to run my fastest mile at 41. I did 5 Murphs last year. I'm going to keep attacking goals. But I'll promise you, my worth doesn't come from that. And if I wake up tomorrow and I go from however many followers I got today to 0, I promise you I'll still have the same day. My worth doesn't come from that. And so I think that's what all young men really need, to these black pill guys, these whatever pill you're on, man. You got to get Jesus pilled if you want any kind of lasting
Christ
peace. Yeah, Christ pilled and any kind of peace or joy, because it's almost sad to a certain point when you get on the other side of this and then you see guys just, man, it's like, do you really think the new car is going to make you happy? Do you really think the next notch on your belt's going to make you happy? The next follower count, the next million, the next whatever it is, man. But so many people just stay in that rat race for a very long time and don't get out.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's such a lie. You never arrive. There's no such thing as arriving. Justin, you had a follow-up. Go ahead, man.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's so that void we spoke about, Ty, you know it. You felt it. It sucks the happiness out of your life, but it also sucks the happiness out of your friends and the people you care and love about, or love, excuse me. It's the hardest because you're struggling with things every time you get one of those new shiny objects or whatever you think's going to make you happy. You just feel less. And when you start filling your life with things like Christ and with, a wife and children, you really start to realize what you've been missing, and you don't know those things until you erase that void completely, because pure love, which comes from Christ, which comes from your children, not so much if you have a Cajun wife like me. Just kidding, baby, I love you. But if you
Justin is now divorced for a second time.
2 times divorced after this. No,
Maybe clip
but all
that part
joking
out.
aside,
We may have to
she's
edit
Cajun. She'll forgive me. That's what they do. They're Catholic. They say a Hail Mary.
Finish
With
up,
that being
finish
said, it's just one of those things. These guys just don't seem to realize that they're creating a consistent, constant void. And if they would just stop and think and utilize their brain for 2 seconds to realize that their emptiness is caused by their own decisions, I think they would, kind of have that same intervention we've had, which is, okay, I'm unhappy, I'm miserable, I have all the things I could ever want that I thought would make me happy. They're not making me happy. What do I do next? And I can tell you the 2 answers to that are find Christ and find a wife who loves you and is willing to stand by your side no matter the crap you do, because I pull crap still to this day. And my wife gives me hell because, like I said, she's Cajun, she's spicy. But I'm Tupelo honey, so it works, it's all good. But that being said, we have a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful family. And my son, I'll say this, kids, to the guys who are black-pilled, kids are the first time in your life you'll never have a wall up. Ever. It's the most pure love you'll ever feel in your life. It's better than any drug. It's better than any alcohol or any night out with any woman. I'm telling you right now, when my son looks at me and tells me he loves me, or my little girl smiles at me, I'm getting a little emotional. It's beyond anything I've ever felt. And that void is completely gone. Nothing there, ever. So, yeah, sorry. I don't mean to get on my soapbox, but...
That's good, man. I talk about this a lot as it relates to like growth and hitting a certain point, right? It really comes down to the motivation behind it. So all these guys chasing things, it's like, oh, I need this external thing, then I'll be a man, right? And so it's this impossible feeling that you're trying to fix. And in reality, you're basically just still a teenage boy seeking selfish gain so that you can feel validation or freedom or whatever the thing you're chasing is. Whereas men who truly grow, Ty, like you did, right? You turned your life around, you turned it over to Christ, you started getting things right and getting in motion. As you've grown, you've had more capability to do more things. You realize that there is no actually arriving. You just become more capable. You have more capacity to do good and make an impact. And so that's why like this whole movement of, just go get yours and do your thing and your power and all that kind of stuff. It's from that empty motivation of essentially just, I need it for me, and it doesn't matter what anything else is. And like you were describing, it's just that empty hole that keeps going down. The other thing I wanted to really like have you respond to, Ty, is Colby, right? He said he was the one who challenged you to come to the gym with him. Yep. So you have to be your own rescue, right? You had to decide to step up and actually start changing something. He offered you a way if you were going to do the work. And I love that he did that, because he didn't say, okay, well, let me help you and fix all the things for you. He said, no, basically put your money where your mouth is. You want to have a better life? Come join us. We will help you, but you better step up, right? And that's exactly what he did. And same thing with your pastor, right? He challenged you to do something for 30 days, knowing that you had to kind of put the work in, right? So I would love for you to talk about that, because I think a lot of these same guys we've kind of alluded to, and I don't want to like over talk the black pill thing, but just even great men who are, or good family men who are feeling stuck. I think they're like looking for some lifeline, like someone's just going to give you all the secrets and all the answers, and then all your life is going to fix and change. And it's like, even if you believe in Christ, you still have to take action, brother. Like he's not going to come down and just solve your life for you. Like it takes faith and dedication. So I'd love for you to talk on that point, because that's honestly where I think most men are stuck today, is this sense of, oh, someone's going to come save me.
Absolutely, man. You don't just go out in the middle of the highway and pray, Lord, save me. You move your frickin' feet off the highway. Like that's what you do, right? And I think Zach Hommel, one of my first mentors and a guy I love, we always say this to each other. Hey, man, pray really hard and then go work your butt off for what you pray for. God lives in us. So, God's inside me. The Holy Spirit's inside me. He's going to empower me to do the work. That's truly what I believe. And yeah, I promise you, Colby didn't give me his number. So if I didn't go meet him at 5 a.m., he wasn't going to track me down. He gave me one offer. He wasn't coming, I guarantee it, right? And I think that's such an important thing. And for any guy who feels stuck, I mean, I'll give you the one cheat code. This is all you need: consistency. It's consistency. That's all you need to do. You need to get up whether you feel like getting up or not. All of us are dads here, man. 41-year-old dad, I'm not trying to be a professional athlete anymore. The reason I'm in shape as a 41-year-old dad, I have about 150 workouts a year that are not great. They're suboptimal. I'm not fully rested. I'm not walking in there just feeling all fired up. I'm there because I know I need to be there, and I'm getting through it, and I'm doing my best. The same as if I have a client call at night and, man, I'm just like super tired. I don't just blow it off, man. I go, okay, let me take a minute, take a few breaths, say a prayer, and give it my best. That's most of life, is just showing up and going at it. And so I believe Jesus models this perfect. It's one of my favorite stories in the Bible. Do you remember the rich young ruler who came to Jesus and said, I want to follow you, man. Like I follow all the laws. I've got all this stuff down, but I'm super wealthy and I don't want to give all my stuff away. This is asking a lot. And one time Jesus told him, go sell your stuff and come follow me. He didn't do it. And the Bible doesn't say Jesus stalked him for the next year and wrote him all these letters. He lent a hand and he said, are you willing to meet me? Are you willing to do the work? If so, it's available. It's right here. And to me, that's the most beautiful thing about the Lord. He loves us so much. He'll give us free will. He was chasing me when I was doing all the dumb stuff. Justin, when you were all doing all the dumb, he was chasing us. When we look back, I know he was knocking, beating on my heart. Hey, dummy, take a step this way, right? But he loves us so much. It's free will. And so this is how, man, I can keep my sanity online, how I can keep my sanity in coaching and doing a lot of the things I do. I am not here to save anybody, nor are you guys. All the stuff you put out is amazing, and it can be a lifeline. And men can pull that on and lift themselves up with it. But you, George, cannot fly to their home every morning at 5 and knock them up. They have to make that decision. And so if you're watching this today, I promise you there's nothing special about any 5 of us. Nothing. There's nothing. We just get up a lot when we don't feel like getting up. And we just have some discipline to maybe not eat some of the food we feel like eating. And we have some of the self-respect to not let people talk to us a certain way, or if they do, to cut them out of our lives. And so, anybody is capable of that, and anybody can make that one decision right now to say, this is the direction my life's going. I'm taking that lifeline that maybe you guys are throwing them, that they feel a tug in their heart from the Lord, or whatever that might be.
I feel like God probably feels often that scene in Liar Liar where they're like, he needs your legal advice. It's like, stop breaking the law, asshole. I'm sure I was that guy. I was the guy calling for that advice and being like, dummy, it's literally all written out for you. Stop doing all of the things you're doing literally every single day.
Yeah.
They're all bad. Yeah,
and to go into something real quick, you talked about not eating the wrong stuff. The only problem Dustin has is he can't put down the cookie.
Bro, I can't either. That's why I can't keep him in the house.
Yeah.
Put the cookie down now.
You gotta win it.
He said it. There we go. That's all I wanted.
All right. Dustin has a real question, real way to keep this conversation moving forward. Sorry, I derailed us there.
I remember, so we interviewed a legendary Marine Raider, Nick Koumoulatsos, and I asked him, I said, what do you do for these guys? How do you help them, right? And I was expecting a kind answer like, I do this, I do that, I go out of my way. And he literally said, I don't help them, because they have to put the work in initially for me to go help them. And it's absolutely right. It is criminal and a waste of your time and energy. You only have so much bandwidth. And so if you go try to save every lost soul who's not ready for it, that's another person you can't help who was ready for it. So I love that attitude where you don't try to save everybody. You save people who are ready for it and are able to do it. So speaking of saving kids, one of the things that really attracted me to you initially, I think it was the first tweet I ever saw of yours. I was like, this guy's a cool dude. You'd adopted, and I wanted to ask you what put you on the adoption path. What put it on your heart that you felt the need to bring kids into your home?
My wife gets all the credit in this, man. So our marriage was doing really well at this time. Fast forward that night that I got on my knees and decided I'm going to change my life. Couple years down the road from that, we've moved cross country to Vegas. There's no family or friends, so we got an absolute fresh start here. Which was really what we needed as well, man. Get away from family and some old patterns and things like that. So we're really starting to thrive now and do well. And my wife tells me one night, she sits me down and says, I feel this tug on my heart. I've always felt it. We had talked previous because we thought she couldn't get pregnant about perhaps doing that. But then in my mind, I'm like, We got pregnant. We got the perfect kid. Like, life's good. I'm getting out of the bank. All these things are going well. And she says, this. And like any good husband, Justin, you might appreciate this. I instantly said no. I'm like, I ain't doing that, right? Like, so she kind of says, well, why don't you think about it or pray about it? And I'm like, all right, fine, just to kind of get her off me, right? And then it's that Sunday we're in church and the preacher has this message, of course, like it always happens, right? To whom much is given, much is expected. And maybe there's something on your heart that you know. And I'm like, gosh darn it, So I told her, give me a few days. Let me research this myself. Then let's chat about it. And once I started reading about it, man, that was it. I came to her like a day later and said, there's 670 kids currently in Las Vegas in an orphanage. If those kids age out and no family steps up for them, 89% of them will end up incarcerated or homeless. And I just said, we have a good house and a good neighborhood and a lot of love to give. And my wife's first pregnancy was real rough. We almost lost Tinley a couple times. And so another pregnancy was off the table. And so we just said, hey, let's go into this. Just literally me and her prayed together a lot. And we went in and we filled out this questionnaire and they said, what sexes do you want? What races do you want? We just said, give us all the kids, man. We don't care. Just like you call us, we'll say yes to the kids. And so we did that for 2.5 years. We had 7 children come into our home. 5 of them we reunited back. 4 of those were really good reunifications where we even got a chance to maybe even help some of these people with clothes and jobs and different things like that as well. One was really hard and a tough situation, but that's part of it. And the system is a really hard thing. But then, when we had our 2 sons, Kingston and Tyson, who we have now, it's just been the greatest blessing of life. We had them for about 8 or 9 months each, and they've grown up together. We've had them each since they were 3 months old, and they had no family members or anybody, and so they told us, hey, it's you either send them back to an orphanage or you guys adopt them. And it was like, obviously took about a half a second to say, where do we sign, right? And so that was one of the best days of our life, man. And, it's talking about the black pill and some of these guys I battle with online. It's like, if that's the meanest stuff they can say about you, oh, the guy adopts kids. Like, he loves children. Like, I'm guilty, bro.
What an idiot.
So yeah, it's been like the absolute biggest blessing of our life and something that my wife and I are super passionate about even after we've closed our license now, just being like 41, man, and taking in newborns. At one point, bro, we had 3 1-year-olds. And you talk about not feeling like getting up to work out, man. The odds of them all sleeping through the night were like 0. For about like 8 months, man, I just felt like neither me or my wife slept. Before we did foster care, people used to be like, oh, you're like 38 years old. Like, dude, you look like you could be 30. And now people are like, oh, you're only 41. Yeah, it looks about right. Just go a couple years, you don't sleep, right? Like,
Takes the toll.
Yeah, it does, man. But it's also the biggest blessing. And again, I think life is just rigged in this way, man, where if you help others pretty selflessly and you just go about it with no agenda, the Lord has blessed me with 2 sons that are just, bro, most of my day at this point is like, I get to be like, dude, we're racing scooter. And I probably can't even say some of the stuff we're doing on here if my wife watches it. We're racing scooters. We're trying to flip them, racing our little hoverboards down these slides at the park that we definitely shouldn't be doing. We're swimming together. We're just taking adventures all day. It's been such a fun thing to just have these sons that I never thought I would get to have. And so, yeah, man, it's just been the biggest blessing. Me and my wife have hopped on Zoom calls with probably a dozen people on Twitter over the last couple of years to just, they had questions about it, and that our heart is really there, man. That's where we give a lot of our financial resources and time and volunteer and things like that too. So biggest blessing of our lives, man.
Well, I read some of these comments that you're discussing about how that's the worst thing they could find about you with the adoption. And I can tell you again, this is where people will not sacrifice, because adoption and fostering requires massive sacrifice to oneself and to one's life. And a lot of these people see that abandoning those things is masculine, when true masculinity is stepping up with compassion and love like Christ commands us. And what's so sad is Nick Fuentes calls himself a Christian, and I will rebuke him right now, that we are supposed to love and take care of the least of these, that is widows and children. And for you to be able to do that, man, I encourage you, because you are showing the fruit of a true Christian. And so don't ever outsource your worth. You have Christ. And so it infuriates me when I see that. But, with the fostering and the adoption, what is one story of a child that you fostered that profoundly changed your outlook on life and fatherhood in general? Because I think a lot of these men need to understand this.
Yeah, man. So, and I get even, I'll just start it with this, man. I felt even a conviction after I went after Nick Fuentes and called him a low testosterone homo and all this stuff. I probably shouldn't have said that, right? So I actually sent him a personal DM and just said, hey, man, this probably, you don't need to respond, but I will pray for you. That's a promise that I have. And I do hope that you seek the truth and this or that. So this is where this ties together. So we're fostering and we get a little girl that comes to us. She's maybe 7 months old, 8 months old at the time, and her dad is doing meth daily. She's living with her dad that does meth daily and a prostitute. And so, you can imagine probably what's happening to this child. When we get her in our custody, the dad got in a wreck. She wasn't even in a car seat. She'd been in the same diaper for like 4 days, hadn't eaten. She's got wounds on her, and just this is how she comes into our care, right? And so, we love on her, and we take her in and we have her for 1 year, about a year. And then the judge says she goes back to this guy. And to this day, man, I don't, my wife is such a saint. Every other reunification was great. That's the point of foster care. If the parents get their life together or they get the resources, whatever, it's a great thing. It's a blessing to say, hey, we got to take care of your child and now go do a great job. This wasn't like this. He admitted to a judge, I'm still doing meth daily. And to this day, I don't know how the court decided that was the best route, but I've never, it's the third time I've said, I've never cried so hard probably that night with my wife. And we just started praying again. And man, it came, we knew it was going to happen. It came about 6 months later where we got another call and said some things went down with this child again, and she's back in, can you take her again? And so, of course, we took her again, right? And man, when you go through, this is one of 7 stories, right? And then when you go through this, and I always just kind of realized growing up, like, bro, I had a dad that loved me and a mom that loved me and a grandma and a grandpa that loved me. And I still struggled and did a lot of dumb stuff. And so now I've been exposed to this whole area of people who never had a dad, ever. But let alone, most of them didn't even have a stable mom or a stable grandma, or nobody stable in their whole life. And so then you get people yelling at you on Twitter or yelling at you in real life, and you just sort of realize, like, this is one of those children. This is one of them. They just haven't been taught yet. Like, I feel so much empathy for them. And so that story, thankfully, has the most happy ending. Miracle after miracle happened. And we got to reunify her with a sister of the mom who's very stable, adopted her, is raising her now with a dad. And so it's a really just a blessing and an awesome story. But yeah, man, when you are in that environment and you meet little kids, man, we had one that was 7 years old that the first day that she came over saw my wife doing like something for work on her spreadsheet. And she'd been at our house for 10 minutes. And she said something like, are you looking for new mommies and daddies to take me to? No, nobody likes to keep me for more than a couple days. And we were doing a respite care because the family that had her she was a lot, like a lot. And you just see that over and over and over again. And it just breaks your heart. And so it's, that's why I think when people are so unkind or they come at you a lot online, it's pretty easy for me 99% of the time. The 1% I still need to work on, but 99% of the time, just say a quick prayer. It's not when they come at me. It's usually when they come and say something about my kids or something like that. Then you get that.
That 1% deserves it.
Yeah,
let's just be real.
Yeah, like, man, I kind of do want to kill you. They need to get punched in the mouth. Right, but it's
I'll
just kind of.
I don't care. I don't have a leash.
I don't know when you see people grow up like that. So that was the moment for me.
Definitely.
That I realized. I hate the word privileged. I think it's a stupid word, but I realized how.
It's
sort of
co-opted.
I'll say blessed, just blessed that I was.
Blessed is the word for sure.
Yeah, and all of us were blessed to be raised probably with at least one person that really loved us and tried to pour into us, because there are a decent segment of society that didn't have any.
So speaking of blessed, you and your wife were able to have your own child even after you were told you weren't. I guess the question I would say is, what would you say to parents who are to people, married couples who are told they can't have children about adoption, and what advice would you give?
I was chuckling there because I thought you were going to ask me about my powerful sperm, but okay. Anyway, here we go.
All right, Milka.
We had multiple
Michael
doctors
Phelps,
say
he's
no,
proud
and
of
then
you.
No rounds over
Let's
there.
chill
then
out,
it was
homie.
then it was the honeymoon, man. But yeah, I
Got a
would say
cannon.
just be really open to it. Just pray about it. My wife and I just invited the Lord into it, and we just said, "Your will be done." We don't care if it's hard. We don't care what other people like. We legitimately lost family over this, and you wouldn't think this would happen. I know none of them will watch this, but we had people say, "I'm not letting my kids play with your foster kids. Your kids, they aren't to this day, like they're not your real kids." Stuff like this, and so
Wow.
I'm a graceful person. I've even reached out one-on-one with a couple of these people and said, that's a pretty offensive thing to say. You want to rethink about that. You want to rethink that. And no. They entrench in, and so then they're just not in your life, right? They were in for a season of your life. But it's been a hard thing. It'll cost you some things for sure. But again, what a blessing, man. And why are we here on earth? We are here so short, and man, I'm halfway through my life unless Elon succeeds and we can put that thing in us and live forever.
Neuralink, baby. We had the
I
first
won't do
patient
that
here.
no matter what anyway.
I don't want it, man.
Nolan, shout out, baby.
But why are we here at such a short time? I think it's just to use the resources, talents, and everything the Lord's given us to try and better the world and pour into His people. And so, my wife and I, when I told her yes, I'm in, the thing we prayed about and talked about that night was we just want to do the most we can to impact this world for good. And if we could take a couple children out of foster care and give them a home and an environment, it's like, bro, it'd probably get too much encouragement and too much love at this point. We need to worry about the other way, right? But if we can just surround them with love and resources and both sets of grandparents that love on them and aunts and uncles that love, and they just, these kids will have every opportunity to be great. Then man, we've done a really good thing. And so I'm starting, I'll just say this, I'm starting in 2025. It's on my calendar to start to volunteer with Hope Church and just counsel other dads. Because I think a lot of time the wives are like real into it and the dads are like sort of like me. I got my own stuff, right? I don't want to give up some of these things. So if any dad is watching this and your wife has mentioned it and you want somebody to chat with, I'm happy. You just DM me and say, hey, I want to chat with foster care. I'll hop on a call and we'll chat through it.
That's a beautiful thing. I love that you're doing that, Ty. So we always ask all of our guests about dad questions. First, I wanted to ask you, what was it like growing up with billionaire Richard Branson of Virgin Galactic? That must have been a really cool. So if anyone doesn't know, Ty's dad looks exactly like Richard Branson. We'll pop a photo on there when we edit the
side
podcast.
By side right here, right
it's
now.
like
You're looking at the side
uncanny.
by side.
So classic question we always ask: give us a core memory. Can you walk us through a story of something really that you'll never forget, a moment that you had with one of your children?
That I had with my dad? Or that?
No, that you've had with your kids.
Oh, that happened with the kids. Yeah, for sure, man. Oh, there's so many. All right. Well, I'll just take a recent one, man. So, and I think this is why it's so important to lead yourself, right? So I do some pretty crazy physical things. I did 100,000 steps in a day. 5 Murphs before noon, just kind of pushing myself in this way. My wife will ask me like, why? And I'm like, because I can, I just want to try, and so my daughter has witnessed me doing this. My daughter's 9. And so she told me last year, Daddy, do you think I could do 100,000 steps? And I said, absolutely. If you're willing to, here, I'll lay out a training plan for you. You can do this, XYZ, you follow this, you can do it. And she said, well, I want to try. And so I looked at her and I said, no, I will not let you try. You will either commit to doing this or you will not. So you go think about it for a couple days. She's 8 years old. You go think about it for a couple days and then you come back and tell me if you want to make a go at this and actually do it or not. So she comes back the next day and says, I want to do it. And so we started she's already a very active kid, right? So we did 30,000 without doing anything. She made 30,000 steps, about 15 miles for her in a day. Then we did 50,000, then 60. And then this last time, about 3 weeks ago, she did 70,400 steps. We went for 100,000, but she got 37 miles in a day. We woke up at 1 a.m, all the Karen moms yelling at me, telling me this ain't good for the kids, right? But to me, man, we spent, 11, 12, 13 hours that day just chatting about things where I got to just pour into my 9-year-old and say, you got the heart of a lion. Like she's tired. She hurts. She keeps going, And I just get to have these moments with her where I empower her. And I went into her room, this is just like a week ago, man, and she got this new little thing from her aunt that's this light up thing you can write on. She's written, I didn't prompt her to do any of this, but she's written down 28 motivational quotes on there. Things that I've said to her, things that she's reading. She's 9 years old, and this is her mindset, right? And so, she gets a lot of these things from me, a lot of great things from her mom. She journals every night. She's such a great intentional kid. And so, I think about all the hours and thousands of hours that you spend reading to your kids and doing these challenges and getting out. You feel like just sitting on the couch, you're super tired. After this call, man, I'll feel like going down and sitting on the couch. I already told my kids I got to live up to it. We're doing a family walk, seeing the Christmas lights in the neighborhood, right? So it's all those times that you pour in and then you get to see some fruit like that. It's just an amazing thing. And my daughter just hugged me big around the neck, and she was crying a little bit at the end of the night. She realized we just ran out of time. She couldn't get to 100,000. She was hurt, like her feet hurt. And so when she kind of had to, I'm going to throw in the towel. It's a personal best, 70,400. She's kind of crying, but just massive hug and just, thanks, Daddy, I love you. And we'll get it next time. Well, she said, let's finish it tomorrow. And I said, all right, and so to get that validation from your kids, I could talk in length about my boys. Kingston was obese when we got him, and they wanted to do surgery on him. And my wife is a saint and fought it and said, just give us a year. And this kid is the healthiest kid now, dude. He just like runs till he does hikes with me, he's just a beast. Tyson was failure to thrive. And now this kid, man, he goes to pick up Tinley at school with me, and the kid says, how old is he? He never wears a shirt or shoes, by the way. I don't know where he gets it, but he's always shirtless. He's always shoeless. And even the sixth graders and fifth graders, this kid is ripped. He's just the healthiest kid. He's in the 90th percentile for weight and height. He's an absolute beast and just an overcomer. So I'm just a big proponent, man. I think this all ties in that if you're a really intentional parent, and I talk about you run your family like you're a CEO. I'm the CEO of my family. My wife, we were talking all the time. How do we get our kids on one-on-one dates, two-on-one dates, and spoil them? How do we get them to think like we think and pray like we pray and have the kind of faith? Our daughter got baptized last year. It was her choice. We didn't bring it up, right? So there's just, when you are that intentional of a parent, good things are going to happen. And look, I'm not, my parents were great parents too, and I swayed, but I think they always come back. Keep praying and you keep staying on them,
Yeah, that intentionality in every aspect of your life is just so crucial. And that's why we say be present and be intentional, because those two things are your superpowers as a parent. But I want you to have a little thought exercise here. Imagine your kids are all in their late 20s and they're reflecting on their childhood. What do you hope they'll say about you as a father?
Man, that's really good. I think I would hope that they would say that I equipped them with a lot of love and a lot of tools to be successful, that I taught them that they can do anything that they want if and only if they're willing to work for it. There's nothing free in life. They won't be handed the keys to anything. They'll be handed hard work and that work ethic. But I think they'll look back and just say, all I remember about our childhood is just playing outside. I mean, we don't have TV, so we're literally outside 6, 7, 8 hours a day a lot of times. And I think I'm yet to meet a child who's like in their late 20s is like, my childhood sucked. My parents played with me all the time outside. I'm yet to hear that. So I feel like I'm going to keep on that route,
For sure. That's a good one, man. Man, I'm fired up. I love talking to you. I love working with you like this. And this was an absolute gold mine of an episode for men out there to level up. Just, again, hitting that intentionality thing. I say this all the time to my clients in Elite Sentinel is, in the military, your first duty description sentence, if you're a commander, is you are responsible for everything your unit does or fails to do. Well, men, you are responsible for everything your family does or fails to do. You are responsible. So taking that intention, taking the ownership of that, and doing a lot of these things that Ty has been talking about on this episode absolutely will start to shift things for your family. And it's that effort and that struggle now that builds real legacy, right? It's not having fame or cars or whatever. It's that investment in the people of your family, how they will grow and move forward in the world. So I love everything you've been talking about, brother. Where can people find you? I assume it's on X. That's the best place to engage with you, right? Probably nowhere else. I know you've got the YouTube channel too. So
Yeah,
where's
come
the best
say
place
what's
for
up
people
on
to
X,
kind of come
man,
and
at Ty
support?
Romper. Ty Romper on YouTube. We're growing over there, man. 66,000 subs over there, putting out videos. A lot of fun over there. A lot of family stuff over there too, which is also cool. But I do want to say, man, I appreciate so much what you four are doing. Everything you guys stand for. I mean, I make it a point to go to a lot of you guys' timelines, and that's not easy with all the things I got to do, but I love what you guys are doing, what you have to say. And I do think there's a lot of voices out there that are against marriage and fatherhood and leadership and family and masculinity and all that. And it's becoming very clear. There's just a very good side and a very evil side and where those agendas are going. And so I'm honored to stand in the gap with you men. And I'm honored to be a part of that in a small part. And I'm super grateful for you guys having me on. I promise you, after a 4-day retreat, I would not have said yes to anybody but you guys. I promise you.
Oh, man.
I'm honored to
I
be here,
appreciate
man.
that. All right. Well, with that, we're going to close. Ty, we love you very much. Honored to know you and get to interact with you and work with you. And all right, dads, like we said earlier, be intentional, be present. Let's get climbing that mountain of fatherhood. Follow Ty on X and his YouTube channel, and we will see you in the next episode. Thanks for watching this episode of the podcast. If you're on YouTube, drop a subscription to us, and if you are listening on Apple or Spotify, please leave us a review. It helps greatly. If you are also ready to level up as a man, check out Elite Sentinel Coaching, our program designed specifically for men, where we forge men into leaders. We turn cowards into kings, weaklings into warriors. Become the hero in your story. Join us today.